Hello, beautiful bosses. Hello, hello. Welcome. Tonight, I am excited because we are going to go over. Let me go in here. All right. So, tonight, I'm excited because this is a method that I love. It's called the BRRRR Method. We're going to go into it a little bit more. But the reason why I personally love this method is because it allows for individuals that may already own a home or want to start investing. It allows for them to take into two advantages here: appreciation and cash flow. So, if these are two things that you're interested in having in your real estate portfolio, of course, this is, my friend, one of the best methods that will allow for you to do that. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get going. Yes, let's build these real estate portfolios. All right, so you may be wondering why the BRRRR method and what is the BRRRR method, right? So, BRRRR method is basically where you buy a rental property, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat, right? So, it's in a real estate investment approach. And as I said before, it allows for you to purchase a property or even use your own property. And it allows for you to rehab that property and then be able to rent it out and then be able to do a cash out refinance so that you can purchase another property. So let's say you currently have a property right now that you're in, or you have an investment property. You can be able to do two things. You can be able to use that cash out refinance to rehab off of the possible new rents, because this will be the new adjusted rate by you rehabbing, or you can rehab before you even rent it out. And both of these options are available to you as a investor. And the great thing about it is, even if you have no experience, this method allows for you to acquire that property and still be able to potentially rent it out in the later months after you've rehab that property. Or if it's already a fixer, if it's already fixed to a certain degree, you can go ahead and use that rent out. So I'm going to show you a couple of advantages here, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. But basically, this method allows for you to not only just purchase, but you can use your own properties. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how you can really use the BRRRR method to build your real estate portfolio. And essentially, if you're building a real estate portfolio, the number that we're going to go off, this is $1,000, right? I mean, $1 million portfolio. This can be for $250,000 homes, single family residences. This can be $1 million property. This can be any type of property where you can be able to use this BRRRR method. So, why should you use this BRRRR method? If you think about it as a homeowner, some of us, we're that die hard, we're going to stay in our house to the day we die, right? But on average, families move in 2.5 years. You either are sizing up because your family is growing, you may get another job offer in another city or state. And so now you're moving to that city or state. But on average, if you think about it, families are moving in 2.5 years. So just think about it. If you were to apply this BRRRR method, and let's say you want to keep your current home and be able to purchase another home, well, the good thing about it is that you can use the rental income from your current home, all right, the previous home, in order to qualify and count towards your debt to income ratio. Which means, let's say you have your home, you have a $2,000 mortgage, right, in one home, and now you're ready to move. Well, let's say you rent out that property for $2,500. 75% of that is going to count towards your debt to income. So that's going to count towards that $2,000 that is considered debt, which allows for you to still qualify for that next property. And this works for you, because that means now not only do you have one home, but you have two, right? So that home that you're moving into is going to become now your new primary, and then this home that you currently still have can now become that investment property for you. What you can also do, before you even move out the house, you can start renovating it during those years, right? Because if you know in 2.5 years you're going to move out, then you can be able to utilize that equity either before you move out or after. And when I say after, this is where you have the chance to refinance your old primary, right? You know, move from that one to a new one. You can take your first home and you can now refinance it into an investment loan. So that allows for you to still tap into that equity. So regardless if you're in the home and you fix it up, you can tap into the equity then and then move, or you can move and then tap into that equity after you have it rented out. So there's flexibility in how you can be able to acquire the capital out of your home. All right. So let's say you are a potential homeowner. Well, you can also be able to take advantage of this. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about advantages a little bit here. So just bear with me. But you can be able to also take advantage of this opportunity within that 2.5 year time span as well, depending on where your property is, right? But as a first time home investor, what I would suggest is, if you're going to use the BRRRR method, to always focus on the positive cash flow, right? Because you don't want to have a property that you're currently investing in, looking to buy, or currently have, where let's say you do these renovations, but because of the area, because of what's around you, you're putting yourself in a predicament where you may be barely or breaking even on your cash flow. So you always want to pay attention to your positive cash flow, and do I have room to really make the shift that I need to? But the BRRRR method allows for you to still be able to take advantage of the appreciation in the home as well as the cash flow. So the main thing here, the main advantage that I feel like this is really tapping into, is what I was saying, the appreciation. This is the tax-free capital that's in that purchase, that's in that property, right? The reason why it's tax-free, because it's a debt. It's tied to a debt. Okay? It's not a capital gains. You're not selling something to receive more. This is a tax-free capital because you're pulling it out of a debt. And so you can take this tax-free capital that you have now to go and purchase your next property. And that means, as I said before, if you want to go from one primary to another one within those 2.5 years, you can use the equity in your home to go and be able to purchase that next primary property. And you can continue to do this over a span of time. But the great thing about it is you can use this tax-free capital to purchase your next property while still having income coming in from your previous property, right? And this allows for you to have the capital that you need to be able to essentially be able to buy your next property, not even out of your pocket. So remember what I said, we want to live off the profits, not what's in our pocket. So this tax-free capital allows for you to be able to do that. Also, you can use your current or potential residence, which I kind of touched on this, after you've lived there in the home for at least 12 months. And I say at least 12 months because usually when you're purchasing a property, because you are living in that property for an intent to live there, right? You're not necessarily looking to buy and then move, right? So you're looking to make that your primary residence. And so usually the law, I did not make this up. I cannot change this. This is what FHA, VA, conventional. They want you to be in the home for a certain amount of time because what we don't want to do is commit mortgage fraud, right? Your intent is to live in that property, which is why you got a primary residence loan. But we all know things happen. Things happen, life happens. So you may want to make that shift within those 12 months, but you can be able to start that process. I'm not saying that if you buy your home and then, you get a job offer in another state, you got it, you're held to this. No, but overall rule of thumb, you want to be in your home for at least 12 months. Okay. If you have to move within those 12 months, then there's always ways that we can be able to help you within those situations. So always just message me. So during the time that you may be living in that primary residence, whether that's for the next 2, 5, 10 plus years, you can be doing renovations. And usually, where you'll see the most bang for your buck is not only just the bathrooms and the kitchens, but also, putting a new roof on, new water heaters. Don't count as much as, full renovation for bathrooms and kitchen, but everything that you have brought up to date can allow for your home to appraise for more. So just think about that as you're living in your home, you can be able to do, renovations over time that will allow for you to get more bank for your buck. So when you're ready to do that cash out refinance, you're able to maximize how much you can be able to withdraw. All right. This next advantage, the DSCR, this is for our investors out there, right? This is for you, the investor. So you can be able to use what is the DSCR loan, where is a debt service cost ratio, where the cash flow, the rent, right, that you're receiving for that property is able to cover the loan amount. So we kind of talked the loan payment, excuse me. So I kind of talked about that, where you want to have a positive cash flow. So even if you refinance, you want to be able to still be able to capitalize on your cash flow. Because the whole reason why you are building this real estate portfolio is so that you can have extra income coming in to you. So that means that this extra income that's coming in is going to allow for me to continue to purchase more properties, but more importantly, also have that cash flow coming in, even if I refinance. And so you can use the cash flow that's coming in for the rent as your potential or your current income to qualify as an income qualifier. So now you're in the business of everything isn't tied necessarily to your own personal income, because now you have rental income coming in, which the BRRRR method does have one of those R's, mean rent. Cash flow, buddy, cash flow. But what I also love, and the reason why my husband and I continue to build our real estate portfolios, because not only can we own those properties and pass those down to our children, but it allows for it to appreciate over time. And what I love about that is I'm not stuck to only doing one refinance, right? So right now we're going through an inflation. And if you think about it, going through inflation right now, prices are rising, right? And it's kind of ambiguous out here. If you think about it, one moment you may see, hey, the unemployment rate went down, but yet they say we're going into a recession. Then they say, the government doesn't have money. Then it says, some markets are flourishing right now. Some are are declining. Some are stagnant. So when it comes to things like this, we're going to kind of go in more in depth on the next slide about how you can be able to kind of, what it would take to do this method now. But if you are a homeowner, you can take advantage of this method now. And I'm going to give you a resource that's going to allow for you to do that. But most importantly, this BRRRR method allows for you, as I said before, to have cash flow coming in and also be able to take advantage of appreciation over the years to come. So, but the thing here, we live in a today's society, right? So, how can you win today with this method? The first thing, and I tell this with any buyer, whether you are just purchasing your home or you're going into real estate, always buying areas where people are looking, right? And the thing about you purchasing in areas where individuals are looking, it makes it highly desirable. So what I mean by that is where we live currently, there's a lot of there's a lot happening in our area, right? A lot of people want to be, it's a desirable area. So a lot of individuals, if they can't buy, they're willing to rent just to get in that area. And one of the ways that you can be able to take advantage, but still have your rates at a competitive price, is being able to set those rates at a rate that's going to allow for you to still have a positive cash flow. And so you want to look at rental rates in that area versus what would it cost me to own this property. So I included my link here. Just click on that link. You'll see a link. You'll see where you can go and select mortgage calculators. Click on that. Then you can be able to use the interest only loan payment calculator in order to look at your investment properties. The reason why I want you to look at the interest only loan payment calculator is because as an investment property, you have the opportunity to have an interest only loan without there being a balloon payment years later. So, what that means is a traditional loan, you got principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, right? Right, in a traditional mortgage. And that's for primary, secondary. But when it comes to, excuse me, investment properties, one second. But when it comes to investment properties, you're able to get an interest only loan, which means you're going to pay interest, taxes, and insurance. And you won't necessarily be paying that principal. And some of these loans allow for you to be able to do that for where you're paying interest, tax, and insurance for only for the first 5, 7, 10 years. And so this allows for you to have more cash flow in your pocket, which that's a great ability for you to be able to keep more in your pocket. So when you're looking at investment properties, definitely always looking to see as interest only is an option for you. Now, look, I'm going to tell you right now, I know a lot of individuals, well, I ain't going to say a lot, but I want to clarify this with you, okay? If you see an interest only loan payment, interest rate, excuse me, and then you try and compare it to a primary residence, there is no comparison. Please do not try to compare the two. Here's why. If you have a primary residence, as I said, you're paying the payment on that. And they're looking at you living in that home for 30 years. And remember, before, if you haven't, if this is your first time listening in tonight, go back to my previous videos, go to my YouTube, Pumps and Profit, and I talk to you about, the rate of how they about risk. So as a primary, you're less risky because you're primary. They expect that to be your primary residence. You're not looking to move, you're looking to be there for a long time. Versus an investment property is going to be more risk. Why? Because let's say a renter doesn't rent it out. What if you as an investor can't make this payment? So they're taking on more risk. But here's the kicker. Depending on the lender that you go to, whatever the interest rate, right? It can still even out around the same. Why? Because it's an interest only payment. All right. So when we say interest only, that don't mean you can't pay taxes and insurance. Interest only means that there's not taking account into the principal until 5, 7, or 10 years from now, when principal will start beginning to be taken into account in that payment. All right. So this BRRRR method you can add to your real estate portfolio. Is going to allow for you to really benefit. Now, here's also a thing that I want you to win in the market with the BRRRR method. If you are looking to use this method, the key here is rent. Okay? Do not buy a property and you have not put yourself in position to where you're able to have potential renters rent out your property. Which is why, number one, I said buy in areas that people are looking to rent and live in. And number two, be competitive, right? So competitive doesn't necessarily mean you have to be cheap. Competitive means that you are in position to make sure not only you're winning, but you're allowing your renters to see the most benefit out of that property in that area, not just based on location. But if individuals know that you just purchased this property, you're fixing it up so someone can rent it out. You're advertising essentially because you're showing that process in order for you to collect the list of potential renters. Now you may have 2, 3, 4 renters that may want to rent it out, and possibly, like I don't say Tashana said, take it with heed. But now you have the potential to now have almost like a bidding war, as if you had this property for purchase, right? And so this is why location is key, because you want to buy in areas that are growing. By you buying in areas that are growing, you're not only putting yourself in position to take advantage of the appreciation now, but you're putting yourself in position to take advantage of the appreciation in years from now. And that is key, my friend, because even though we're going through inflation, think about it. Over time, the reason why we're going through inflation is because everything is increasing. And so the dollar today is not the same dollar tomorrow. And so that's why you want to buy in areas that are growing. Now, let's say you are the type where you want to be really strict on how you build your $1 million portfolio. So let's talk about that here for a little bit. Let me see my chart. All right. So if you're looking to build a $1 million portfolio, let's say over the next 10 years, you want to slow roll it, right? This is for my individuals who don't necessarily want to put all their eggs in one basket, but they're still working. This is for my 20-year-olds. This is for my retirees. This is for my individuals that calculate risk and not looking to have a lot of risk that they're taking on at one time. This, my friend, is for you. So let's say you want to build your $1 million real estate portfolio slowly. Now, when I said $1 million, as I said before, this can be 4 $250,000 homes. This can be $1 million property. This $1 million is just, I want you to just have it as your marker that allows for you to bring that cash flow. Now, the cash flow is going to look a little different depending on how you structure that portfolio. But my friend, we're just going to focus on you want to build your $1 million portfolio. Well, as I said before, if you already have a home that you live in, right, and you're able to have enough equity in your home, you can go ahead and start this process today. Right? So you can be able to purchase over time 5 properties over the next 10 years. So let's say you're that person. You may live in one property. Let's say you've been there for 2.5 years. You're ready to, find another property. You found one maybe in another city, another state. You're looking to move, or you just want to start building your portfolio and you're being active about it. Well, you can be able to, as we said before, the BRRRR method: rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, right? So now you're able to rent out this property. I'm going to move over here. I'm going to stay here for at least 2 years, fixing it up, as we said before, living in, fixing it up. And now I'm going to build my portfolio over time, where I'm going to purchase these 5 properties over time, over the next 10 years. And I know 10 years from now, I have 5 properties, and say those 5 properties are cash flowing at $1,000 right into your pocket. Now you're bringing in $5,000, right? Or if you have these 5 properties, they may be cash flowing you at 500, and you say, hey, I need to be making more than 500 off my properties, because that's just not enough for me, right? That's only 200, that's only $2,500. But let's say that 2,500, over the years, you can continue to use this BRRRR method. Now you may not be buying, but now you're continuously rehabbing, and you get to raise the rents in those properties, right? So, some disclaimer, some states and cities do have caps, so take heed on that. But you're able to raise the rent over time because you are continuously rehabbing these properties, while at the same time you are able to, while you're still able to acquire more properties. All right, so Paula, I want to talk about this really quick. I'm going to put this up here. So Paula says, buying in blooming developments, would you pay more? So I will say, Paula, it depends. The reason why I say that, and I want you to kind of elaborate a little bit more if you can. But the reason why I say buy in areas, one thing I've learned in when you're looking at properties in certain locations, it's always going to be about, is this location, is infrastructure being built, are jobs being made, and are more people wanting to come in that area, right? So first you want to look at the stats. The facts is where it's at, okay? Not opinion, facts, because at the end of the day, we all look at numbers. So first of all, make sure that really is a blooming development. And I love that word, blooming, yes, because it will grow over time, right? So the pay more part of this is why I said you want to check in an area to see what are the rental rates. So for instance, in our area, you can get a 2 or 3 bedroom for $2,300, right? 2 bedroom, $2,300. Well, let's say you had a mortgage of about 200,000, and that mortgage, and let's say the payment on that mortgage is $1,900 a month, right? So you rent it out for 2,200 because you want to be competitive. And now mine is 1,900. Well, now you're only making $300 off that property, right? And so you want to, and that's off a principal and interest payment. So the thing is, it's not about would you be paying more, it's about am I going to cash flow, if you're looking at it in that instance. If you're looking at it to live for the next 2.5, 3 years, it comes down to, can I afford it right now? And do I want to be in this area? And while I'm in this area and while I'm fixing it up, now I have the potential to either to continue to rehab it, or just rent it out and then pull my cash out after I have someone in that property. So it depends when it comes. I would never, I personally, this is not um the loan offer speaker, because I have to, see your situation, what area are we buying in, things like that. We can always discuss that more. But if I'm looking in an area, as I said before, I'm looking at what are the rents right now, Are people actually renting? Right? Are they actually renting? And what are those rates compared to if I were to purchase this potential property? And so I know it's kind of a heavy answer, but the pay more is essentially if you're willing to pay more in terms of down payment and down payment, right? So if you're willing to pay more in down payment, that means your loan is going to be lower, which means now you're going to be able to cash flow more, and you can take a portion of your earnings and you can be able to apply that back to the principal, which over time allow for you to now build up more equity quicker and then still be able to refinance and pull cash out of that property. So if you mean pay more in terms of that, yes, ma'am. That is at your discretion. If you mean pay more for the property where you're barely cash flowing, or but you know that's a good area, I would say that comes into your risk, right? Because if you buy in that area and rent does not go up the way you thought, now you may be still stuck with $300, in cash flow for the next 2-3 years because you thought this area was going to develop, right? So it all depends. I would love to talk to you more about that, Paula. Please message me, girl. Let's talk about it because, honey, if you're ready, I'm ready. Okay. But essentially, I love and thank you, Paula, for that question. That was a great question to ask. But when you're in the area, and this is what I tell my clients, whether they're purchasing for themselves as a primary or as an investment property, when it comes to the area, one of the things that you got to consider with a family or with any business, right? So this is what I want you to think about if you're looking at to really build your portfolio. It's just like in business. You want to decide who is my target market, right? Because when you decide what that target market is, now you're able to see, okay, what could be that potential rental rate. So what I mean by that is there's different target markets. You got one target market that are long-term renters. These are usually families. This is usually individuals. Some of them may be college students or individuals that's going to be in there for at least a year, right? And they're not moving out long term or 6 months, whatever you consider that long term. 6 to 12 months, I consider that long term, right? Um, so let's say those individuals, as I say, is families. Sometimes it can be college students. It can be adults that are looking to be closer to their job. So those are like long term. If you're thinking short term, now you're talking about Airbnb. You're looking for maybe a vacation area. And so with that, you're gonna, look in different areas. Now, take heed on this, okay? I'm going to tell you now on the back end. Lenders are more, let me say it like this instead of saying lenders. Certain lenders, right? Not all, but certain ones, when they look at short term Airbnbs, they consider short term Airbnbs higher risk than long term. Why? Because your rent is not guaranteed from month to month. Whereas long term, you got a lease agreement. This is what you're going to make off that property, and you're going to make that at least for a year, right? Versus short term, that depends on the market. It depends on if people are going to actually rent. And so sometimes lenders will lend you less amount of money because it's a short term rental. All right. So just think about that. And I have a third market that a lot of individuals do not talk about, right? But I want you to still take this into consideration, especially using the BRRRR method. Now, as a lender, on the lender side, I'm not a lender, I am a loan officer. Okay. So I fund the real estate fines, but I do not make the final decision. The lender does, right? So from them, they may look at this third market that I'm about to tell you about as a short-term rental, but you can still be able to profit um, pretty good off these markets. So if you think about it, during COVID, right, there was a lot of nurses being deployed all over the nation. And these nurses, traveling nurses specifically, the market started to boom, right? So let's say you're in an area that is heavy on healthcare, and they have a lot of nurses coming in, or they have a lot of doctors that's moving in. So now you may say, okay, well, I'm going to focus on traveling nurses because now you're able to charge a different rental rate in terms of these traveling nurses being there. Now you're able to not necessarily charge a long-term rental rate, but now you're able to charge a rate that's competitive for a traveling nurse. And usually this can be, and if you have, multiple bedrooms, sometimes those traveling nurses can rent it out per bedroom, just like a college student. Rent it out per bedroom, and you can make more money overall. Another market, and this is like mid-term, right? It's not short term, it's not long term, it's like mid-term, like 3 to 6 months, right? They're not there all year. They're not there for a couple of weeks or days. They're there for a couple of months, right? Another market may be insurance, right? So families that are displaced, their homes unfortunately have burned down, or they're going through a situation where they need somewhere to rent, and a hotel just doesn't work for them. They rather rent a home. Well, the insurance company can pay you for them being able to rent out your property during that time frame. So there's so many different markets in terms of the way that you can be able to make money off of your rents, but it's up to you to decide what market am I going to solely focus on in order to grow like you would any other business. So I hope that those methods kind of helped you in terms of what should I do in today's market. I know that there is a lot of um, different conversations that's happening from, Biden saying he's going to, charge people with charge extra rate or, percentage because you have good credit score. um, I have not seen that effect yet. I haven't seen that. With that, usually, lenders, if you're less risky on paper, lenders like that, right? So I haven't seen any discretion in that part. When it comes to the housing market, a lot of individuals, I've seen on the news where individuals are saying there's no homes available, right? And a lot of talk in the lender industry, the mortgage industry, has been about affordability. And so one of the things I've seen from lenders to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, these are secondary markets that purchase your loans, right? One night we will talk about mortgage process, just to give you a little back end. But we're talking, there's always talks in how can we make it more affordable for you to be able to purchase a home? How can we make it more affordable for individuals that need homes, right? How can we be able to help individuals that want to get in a home but may not have as much for the down payment? Now, remember, you still got to have closing costs, okay? But they're trying to help individuals really purchase homes. So we want to see you win out here, right? And so the reason why I do all of these lives is because I feel like there's information that's really missing, and individuals may not really understand the mortgage process and what really happens, right? Because sometimes we'll take word from other individuals, but my goal is to be transparent with you so that you know how you can be able to benefit from the mortgage industry from so many different ways, right? Whether you get a 1099, whether you have, let's say, $500,000 in your bank account, you feel like you can't buy a home because you don't work. Well, yes, you can. We can use, the assets that you have. We have loans where we can do bank statements, P&L. So there's so many different ways that you can qualify for a home or investment property that I feel like is just not being talked about. So I would love to have that conversation with you. This is not a commitment for me to lend or saying that you are obligated to do anything with me. Let's sit down, let's talk about it. And if you want to talk about how you can be able to use this BRRRR method, just click that link bit.ly/REO. Use that link so that we can be able to connect. And this is going to allow for us to really be able to find out what situation can work for you, where you are positioned now in order for you to grow your real estate portfolio. Okay, beautiful bosses, as always, I want you to make sure you slay every day with style, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.